Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode from the Winning Edge Talks podcast. This is Vishwanath here. It's been quite some time since I've done an episode for all of you. Today, I have a surprise for you. My dear friend, Mr. Kalyan Ashok, has expressed the desire to be the host of this episode. Even I have been kept in the dark as to what the content of this episode is going to be. Mr. Kalyan Ashok has spent more than 30 years as a senior sports journalist. He has been the head of Sports Bureau, The Hindu, Bangalore. So, without much ado, let's invite Mr. Kalyan Ashok. Yes, Mr. Ashok, the stage is all yours. Please set the ball rolling and you can start the show.
Thank you, Mr. Vishwanath, for having me on the show. It has been a great pleasure to talk to you again. There is no surprise in what I'm going to talk because it is a subject that is very close to your heart. That is sports psychology.
Oh, wonderful, sir.
Listeners, before I get into the interview part of the issue, I would like to make a brief introduction of Mr. M N Vishwanath. M N Vishwanath is a sports psychology coach, mental trainer, and a counselor. He has written several e-books on sports psychology, besides penning a widely acclaimed book called Success Mantra in Sports. Besides that, Mr. Vishwanath is an avid podcaster and done about 100 podcasts on the subject. He also was involved in creating webinar and online courses and training for sports psychology. Mr. Vishwanath is a former cricketer and now takes a lot of interest in golf and offers useful tips and mental training for the golfers who are interested in enhancing their potential in the game. Okay, Mr. Vishwanath, to begin with.
Sir, thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's really highly inspiring and I am ready to answer your questions. Please, sir.
See, to begin with, I would like to ask you, what is sports psychology? Can you put it in a nutshell and explain to the listeners in simple terms?
Okay, sir. Sir, to begin with, let's talk about the word psychology. As the name suggests, psych is mind, logy is study. It is a study of mind. Psychology is one of the, let's say, the youngest branches of science. It's been quite recent, maybe 2 centuries ago, since the research and interest in psychology has grown. Now, sports psychology has been very, very young. It's about 120 years old, to say. Now, what does sports psychology deal with? It deals with the mind of an athlete who takes part in competition, how mind contributes towards performance and the results, and in turn, how results and performance affects the person in return. And besides, it also deals with the personality of the human being, that is the athlete in question, what kind of a person he is, what is his mental makeup, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses as far as his mind is concerned. Then it deals with a lot of other tools that help an athlete get better mentally and improve his overall performance. So sports psychology contributes hugely to the performance of an athlete on the field because it's the mind that decides who is the winner. So however good an athlete is, however strong, well-built, and how a hardworking and skilled an athlete is. When it comes to the competition, the expectations, then his goals, and his mental makeup, how he looks at competition. Is he calm? Is he cool? Does he become nervous? All these will affect his game. So the mind is very important when it comes to competition. Now, sports psychology trains an athlete. What is the ideal mindset? How to get to his ideal performance state? How to be during competition? This is in a nutshell what sports psychology deals with.
Yeah, nice explanation, sir. How effective is the application, and what are the tools which are being used in sports psychology?
Yes, sir. Speaking about the effectivity of the sports psychology, see now the general thinking, general belief is that an athlete has only to take care of his body and train hard on the arena, in the ground, practice well, then execute the skills, and the rest happens by itself. But they don't know that on the hindsight, his mind is always contributing, the brain and mind combination. Without the brain and mind combination working in tandem, the signals don't come to the body, and when only the signals comes, the body moves by itself. So the brain mind combination is very, very important in execution as well as in the thinking of an athlete, how he has to think while executing. Now, talking about the effectivity, somehow the athletes for a very, very long time have just gone on there and trained hard, and they have been executing and going by his own personality, his own basic nature, about how he deals with competition, how tough he is or how weak he is. He's gone on to perform, and his experience has taught him what to do and what not to do, how to be, how not to be, and all this has happened naturally. So the general belief amongst the entire sports fraternity is that sports psychology is not really needed, and athletes only gains to how to use his mind going by his experience in the competition. Of course, in a way it is true, but these days everything is scientific, and the Western world has gone on ahead in the sports. That's why they've been able to get so many medals in the Olympics and in the World Championship. The main reason is that they are training their athletes on their mental side. So they have an edge over the athletes from other developing countries. So it is possible to train an athlete mentally, and it's not that myth or a taboo that the mind cannot be trained. You are always a person who is born by nature, by instinct or by birth. It's not so. Your mind can be trained. So athletes are being trained mentally. Many athletes have undergone mind training. So I can confidently say that mind training, as far as sports is concerned, is very, very effective. But the research is gone far ahead than compared to the application part. The application part is lagging behind in two areas. One is the total, the teaching part, how the implementation part, how the psychologists and mind trainers are effectively able to train the athletes to use their mind effectively. This is one major challenge. And the second is the belief in the whole sporting system about the effectivity of sports psychology. So in a way, it is definitely effective, and the use of sports psychology is yet to catch up with the research that has taken place. The research is very far ahead than the application and the usage part. This is what I wanted to tell you, sir.
Who are the kind of athletes? What kind of athletes are sports people who seek the help of a sports psychologist?
Very, very interesting question, sir. Very good question. See, ideally speaking, when an athlete begins his sport, normally at a very young age, maybe very as young as 6 to 8 years, when they start playing for different reasons. Why they take to sport? There are a number of reasons, both physiological and psychological advantages. And then they finally decide that the boy or girl is very talented. Then the child has to take part in competition. After taking part in competition, the child starts showing progress. That's when the parents as well as the coaches become very much interested. They start encouraging the child. It is from this stage itself, sports psychology, mental skills have to be taught to the athletes. But unfortunately, it is not so. This is not done. After spending 5 to 6 years in the competitive circuit, many coaches and parents find out that our child is very hardworking, very, very dedicated, she or he does a lot of sacrifices. He is very good in practice, okay, excellent in practice. But what happens to this child when he or she goes to the competition? Somewhere it's not translating into competition. That's when they start wondering that somewhere mentally they are frail. Now at this stage that the coach suggests that the parents should take the child to a sports psychologist or a general psychologist. So because the coach feels that the child is somewhere not up to the mark mentally when it comes to competition. Maybe there are so many factors, the mental demons, what we call, that might be affecting the child. So this is when the parents and whole system wakes up to the fact that the child needs a thing. Then the second factor is, you asked who are the athletes who are prone, who are normally who need the sports psychology help. The other things is these some of, as we have seen all through our life, some of the people that we have come across are very, very mentally tough. They don't give up easily. Some are very vulnerable. They're very weak mentally. So they tend to get nervous at the very smallest things, and they are put under fear. And when it becomes competition, they are not confident. So these things comes as a matter from birth as a personality. Now, these are the people who definitely need the mental training and counseling and psychological interventions. So these are we can make out easily that these are the ones who need the psychological help. So when these signs are shown, though the body is good, the mind is not contributing to the body and the game. That's when the people realize that the athlete needs the mental support. That is when they approach us for psychological help.
Sir, very interesting thought.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I want to ask you, sports psychology, does it really help the individual sports person or the team? Suppose you are taking a team as a whole, how this sports psychology works. There is a lot of difference between training one person and a set of, say, about 10 to 11 people. How do you go about that?
A team is a group of individuals, and even in a group game, whichever the group game you can talk about, at any instant, all the players don't take part in the execution. Let us say football. So the ball comes to one footballer. He has the possession of the football at any particular given instant. At that particular instant, he becomes an individual. It's not a team game. At that particular, everything is dependent on that individual, how he blocks the game, how he looks around, how his mind thinks, what passes he has to give, how perfectly he executes. Now here comes the individual. So this individual under pressure may falter. He can break down. So the same individual without pressure can perform very well. So again, when you break down the team into individuals, the individual is very important, because when it comes to the crunch situation in a football match, when the individual is taking the penalty kick, if he becomes nervous and thinks negative, whether I'm going to make the kick, the last kick maybe, this kick will decide whether the team will win or not. Here, if this footballer becomes distracted with his internal thoughts, if he becomes nervous, his body tightens up, mind is going everywhere. If he misses the shot, then he lets down his team. So here it is even though it's a group game, here is the individual who is important. Now, when it comes to the group dynamics, the team cohesion is very important. So now the sports psychologist helps the individual in a team game, because how the individual cooperates, integrates himself, how he combines, how he done in a team game is very important. Some team individuals behave very selfishly in a group game. They want to garner all the attention and they want to become selfish. Here he needs to be trained, he needs to be told. So at the same time, there are the team goals. And now we can see that top teams, whether it is in the English Premier League or in the IPL League, we have been observing even in this IPL, Mumbai Indians is the bottom of the table. Now, here, we don't know what is happening in this case. Whether the individuals are letting down the team or the team thinking and the team combination is not okay. And as the team starts losing, the motivation goes down, the confidence goes down. Here, the role of a sports psychologist comes into play. Now, the psychologist should talk to the team, raise their motivation levels, inspire them, then then remind them about the team goals, then remind them about so many other things, just to forgetting the past, focus on the execution, being in the present, so many things. When the sports psychologist involves with the team meetings, then the role of a sports psychologist is very much felt in this case, because the team is feeling very low. When the team is winning, everything happens. There is no need for everyone. A winning team always is at the highest, at the peak of their confidence, and everything is going their way. It's only when the team is losing, then it's very hard for the coach to raise the team's morale and team thing. Then the psychologist will come here. So the sports psychology is for everyone. Even the group teams are hiring sports psychologists, just as individual team players are also hiring sports psychologists. So the sports psychology is very much a part of the sport, any competitive sport.
Nice explanation, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask you, you have been involved with golf of late, and you say that now that you have been training some of the golfers on the mental strength and the game plan and all that. They say golf is absolutely an individual kind of sport. And in what way you are contributing to the golfers? To
the golfers. Yes, sir. So the reason I started playing golf as a recreational golfer, not even an amateur golfer, was to understand the mind-body interplay in golf. Sir, to begin with, I want to tell you that golf, like archery, shooting, maybe billiards, is a total mind game. The reason being, in all these sports, whether you take archery where the target is stationary, to shooting also where the target is stationary, in billiards and as well as in golf, the ball is always stationary. Now, the athlete, whether it is a billiards or snooker player or a golfer, has a few moments with him. He is permitted to spend some time before he executes. Now, in any sport, when there is time for execution, that is when then there are possibilities of distraction. It is when you have time. It is when your mind is flooded with a lot of thoughts. And when a lot of these thoughts are negative, then it can cause a lot of havoc in the mind as well as in the body, and it will also cause a lot of distraction. Since the athletes here in these games have a lot of time, then the mind has to be kept under control. In fact, the athlete should not overthink at all. So the mind can create havoc. So these are the games which are totally 100% mind games, we call it. And these games, especially golf, needs a lot of mind training. The golfers need to be trained on how to be. Now, it's so important that for a golfer, Now, when you get negative thoughts, the thoughts that gives you stress, the mental demons like nervousness, anxiety, fear, all these worry, and all this can tense up your muscles. When muscles tense up, you can't execute smoothly. Golf is a game of smoothness. It's not a game of strength. In golf, one negative thought, you were still thinking about the previous shot, which you spoiled, which you didn't play well, then you're completely under stress and your muscles are tight. When you try to execute the next shot, it won't be smooth and it will not go where you wanted the ball to go. So golf is totally a mind game, and golfers 100% they need mind support. And we have seen in the biofeedback equipment with golfers that a little bit of overthinking, a little bit of anxiety and negative thought can speed up your heartbeat. It can speed up your respiration. And when your heartbeat increases and respiration increases, especially at the point of making a putt, the slightest movement, the wrong movement in a putt can deviate the ball away from the cup. So here you need to keep your system, the human body and its workings in a perfect way, the ideal way for you to get the best out of yourself. So here in golf especially, the mind contributes more than 90%. So once a golfer gets trained on how to be and how to use his mind, what to do at what situation, even if he plays a bad shot, then he will be able to handle himself. But at the beginning, definitely he needs to be trained, and once he understands how to use his mind, then he will do it by himself.
Mr. Vishwanath, you have
Thank you,
authored
sir.
a very successful book on sports psychology called Success Mantra in Sports. What made you to do it, and what has been the response for the book?
Okay, sir. Sir, the major challenge was as I dived into sports psychology, being a cricketer myself, and my son played table tennis at the national level for a long time. And I saw in the cricket, while I was a cricketer, when I saw my son play table tennis for a long time, that mind affected the athlete. Anything that happens on the court or off the court, it can be in the educational area, the schools or the colleges with the peers, and even in the home atmosphere, the relationship, anything affects the mind of the athlete. The mind of the athlete needs to be in sync with the thing. There should be internal harmony. There should be the mental well-being, which is very important for an athlete to go out there and perform and fulfill his goals. So now I observed a lot. Then, in fact, I tried to look for a sports psychologist for my son in the early days. That was a long ago, and I couldn't find any, especially in this part of in Bangalore. Is about the human behavior and the workings of the mind. So I had already passed my psychology degree, and then later on this led to me completing so many sports psychology courses, counseling courses, and later on the golf psychology course. Now I was not satisfied. I started writing articles on the mental aspects of the game, and I don't remember anybody writing purely about the mental aspects. I just remember yourself and Mr. Srikumar from Indian Express, and so many, Hausadiganta, Prajavani, Deccan Herald, so many of them encouraged me to write such articles. And people motivated me to compile into a book. That is when this idea of writing a book got the power of intention was sown. Then I started writing planning for it. Now, the books available in the area of sports psychology as far as India is concerned are mostly academic books. Many Indian authors have gone forward and written books, but they're all just for the academic syllabi of MPED, BPED, and other courses. Now, there was nothing for the professional athlete on what happens, the mental factors about what happens. Now, you asked me about the earlier question was you asked me about the tools of sports psychology, which I forgot to answer. Now, let me bring one line about tools of sports psychology. One is this confidence. There are many mental strategies and exercises that we can do to help raise the confidence. Then is the motivation, the concentration factor, many exercises, strategies, and techniques where you can improve your focus, attention, and concentration. They're all the same. Now there are relaxation techniques. There are visualization and imagery techniques. There are techniques to increase your mental toughness. There is so many other techniques where emotion regulation techniques. Many other techniques are there in sports psychology. These are all the tools that we normally use to train an athlete mentally. Now, coming back to my book, now I wanted to write a book purely about what happens on the sports field in the competitive arena. Anything that happens on the sports field, I pick up on that and I write, I do a blog or do a podcast about that. Same thing I have done in my book. It's all about the competitive aspects of sport. There is nothing much academic in my book. There are a lot of anecdotes, examples, stories, and that I've used in my book to help the reader to relate with what I am talking about. So it's a very, very practical book, which my readers have appreciated. And it's been 5 years since I wrote my book, and I'm really happy that it is still selling. No, not like a fiction book. It's the rate of sales is very slow, but I'm really happy that it is still alive and going. This book is available only online on Amazon and Flipkart and etc. It's still available, and anybody can go ahead and buy it from the platform. So this is all about my book, sir. I'm happy about the responses people have shown, and this is what I want to do in short. A few other people have also written. If Indians have written book on the mental aspects of science. They have according to their own maybe ideas and learning. They have written a book according to their own thinking and their ideas. I have written something different. So each one contributes differently to the field. So this is it, sir.
And finally, Mr. Vishwanath, I'd like to ask,
yes, sir.
What is the scope for sports psychology and its development in India? It's a nascent subject as far as India is concerned.
Yes, sir. The demand, the importance, the effectivity of sports psychology and mind training is growing, sir, but growing very slowly. Here, from my experience, I can really tell you that sports psychologists have not marketed and publicized the field effectively. Now, when you are able to come out with success stories where sports psychologists have helped athletes to come out from a slump, or to help them make mentally very tough, and also coming from the athlete's mouth about how they were helped by different sports psychologists during different times when they were feeling low or they were in a slump, they were not in form. And these are the experiences, these are the the expressions or the thing, when they come out in the press, when people read, then they understand the importance of the subject. Now that is not happening. People still say that, oh, there is a science, but I don't know, maybe maybe that doesn't work. Or it's because they don't know the effectivity. It has not been properly publicized. It's not been properly marketed. Yeah. So I think that was your question. Lot needs to be done about it. And now, after in the recent years, many athletes have come forward and spoken about the mental health concerns. Yeah. After the COVID, what COVID has happened, you know how it has affected the athletes psychologically. Let's not get into that. It's a very deep subject. Now, athletes now realize that how mind is important. When they were out of play for 2 years, how much they were affected mentally. Now everybody understands. Now, especially in the Indian subcontinent, especially talking about India, sport is becoming more and more competitive. It is becoming more and more professional. The more competitive, the more professional it becomes, the more is at stake. Now, the more is the stress. And then the athletes break down because of the stress and other things. This is a time when they look for mental support. Now, when more and more of this happens, the need for sports psychologists increases, and the breed also grows. The more and more sports psychologists will step in to support the athletes, and that's how the field will grow. But a lot needs to be done from our side to show that this is effective and athletes should make it a part of their training regimen. And there are a lot of now there were not many courses available in India. Now many universities have started sports psychology. Now many clubs and academies and associations are employing sports psychologists. So on the professional side also, sports psychologists are finding themselves employed and lending out their services. So the future looks bright for sports psychology, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Vishwanath. It was a wonderful interaction on the subject which you know the best. There must be several readers,
Thank you very much,
several
sir.
listeners who might be very interested in knowing more about sports psychology. If you can furnish your contact details, they can contact you and learn more
Yes,
about
sir.
the sports psychology. Please go ahead and give your contact details.
Oh, sir. Yes, sir. The athletes can make a note of my cell number. I can be contacted on my cell number, which is 97393 They can also reach me on my email, which is viswanath.author@gmail.com. Let me break it up for you. viswanath.author@gmail.com. My website is also www.winningedgeconsulting.in.
Thank you, Mr. Vishwanath. Thanks once again.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.